Welcome back at the MX-5 Info. In this video I will be installing a daytime running light module on this NC Miata. The module was developed in the period that daytime running lights were mandatory in Austria. I might be installing LEDs in a future video, but this time it's more about the visibility and safety aspects. 50 years ago, the first car with daytime running lights was launched. It was standard on the Saab 99. A year later on the Volvo 240 series. Initially to improve visibility on dark winter days, but that was extended to all year around. The Nordic countries were the first ones to adopt daytime running lights. My first car with DRL was a Volvo 244 GLE. Iceland, Denmark and Canada were next. To comply with the rules in Canada, the first Mazda to have DRL was the Miata. Audi introduced LEDs for DRL. Austria only had it for 2 years because of public criticism and practical issues. In the meantime, LED lighting gained in popularity. Within the European Union, it's standard on all new cars. Our Volvos already had it, and I've added it to my NB Miata. I have used this DRL kit to build a plugin that illuminates the low beams, taillights and side markers. Let's have a closer look at the subject of this video. It is the daytime running light module C831 V7 460D, and we can do some unboxing and find out what's in the box. So we have this module. It says C831 V7 460B, so not with a D at the end. This might be specific for the module instead of for the complete kit. Then we have some wiring harness with a connector for the module and a separate fuse. Some padding material that can be wrapped around the module to prevent undesired vibration under the dashboard. Then there's a small bag with some crimping clips to splice some wires together. Not sure if I will be using those, but at least they are provided. Then we have an installation guide and a number of tie wraps. So on the installation guide I can see that instead of just the RX-8, the MX-5 NC and the Mazda 3, we now also have other cars being supported. That was not the case when I had this earlier version of the set. So now we can also see the Mazda 5, the Mazda 6, the Mazda CX-7 and the Mazda CX-9 as being supported by this same kit. That's what's in the box. This is what we can work with. In order to get access to the area where the module will be installed, we need to remove a few panels or covers. So this cover for the steering column has to come off, as does this panel underneath the steering column. Then we also need to remove this protection for the door sill. This one that just pulls up like this. And then also we need to remove this panel over here where the small fuse box is. There's a small clip here at the bottom that needs to be pulled out. And then you can remove this cover, and there's another clip right around here. So maybe when we move this rubber away, then we can pull this out like so, and then we have access to this area, because here's where we need to add the additional fuse. Before I start the actual work on the installation, I will need to disconnect the negative battery cable. I already removed the cover, but what you see here is what I see often. So there's this black and yellow wire, a thick wire, that should go through this opening, and it's not. So we will pay attention to that later on when we reconnect the battery. So now I cannot put a normal socket and wrench on it, so I will have to use an open wrench to disconnect the battery. So here we go. Now it's safe to work on the electricity of the car. As you can see, I have removed the covers from the steering column. Those are held in place by 2 screws in the front and 1 a bit further back. And we need to remove those to get access to the connector that interacts with this switch. That's this connector of the combination switch. We need to pull that plug. And then I need to start working on this connector because it holds a wire that I need to splice into. And I need to cut one of the other wires to provide an input and output for the module. So in order to get access, I will remove part of the installation here. That's also what is described in the installation guide. Now the installation is stripped back a bit. This orange bar is part of the locking mechanism of the connector. I can try to open that to make sure that I could pull out the wires, which might make it easier for me to splice into them and to crimp a new connection. So when I unlock that, I can also try to pull the wires out. I need then to press down on a tab in here. Let's see if we can get that done. And while pressing down, I then also need to pull on the wire. That's number 1. That's our brown and black. And then we need the yellow and red that is next to it. So these are pins J and L. And the way Mazda numbers these is always when you have this connection at the top, then you have A, B, C, D, and then you continue like that. So then you arrive at pin J and pin L for these. So I now need to cut this wire, the blue and black, and then I need to splice into the yellow and red. One of the reasons why I remove these pins is also because I can then use shrink tubing after I've done the splicing, and I can put these over these terminals like so. Yeah, then I can slide it over the new connection and then use heat to shrink that tube. These 4 wires come from the DRL module harness. The gray-red needs to be connected to the yellow-red here. Then the yellow-red needs to go to the brown-black on the side of the connector. The yellow one on the other open end right there for the other part of the brown-black cable. The yellow wire is intended for the Mazda 3, which has a light sensor, but we have other plans with that gray wire, so we'll come back to that later. After trying the clips that were provided for crimping in this set, I decided against using them and fell back to my original method, or my preferred method, I should say. So I connected all of the wiring, and now I can just use the shrink tubing like so, and then apply some heat to make this a proper isolated connection. So now with the shrink tube in place, these pins need to go back into the connector. So the yellow-red goes into pin J, which is here. Click. And also this one next to it. Click. and then I can lock the connector by pressing down this orange bar. The next step in the process is to get power and ground for the module, and we will get that from this area. So for the ground we will connect this eye thing behind that bolt, and for the 12 volt we will splice into the black and yellow wire, which is typically for the meter fuse. So this block here, you can unlock it from this white part if you put a screwdriver down here and push it up or pull it down. At least I managed to do so, and it will give me a bit more space to get to this black and yellow wire. I did have to remove again a bit of insulation over here, like so. Otherwise you cannot isolate this wire and work on it. So next I will splice into this one. Here is our splice. I will have to tape that, so the red wire is now connected to the black and yellow wire, and we have added the ground wire over here behind the bolt. This is the additional fuse for the module. So I will be taping this up, and then this can go back into its place. That is the taping done, as you can see. So this block can now slide back into place. And also at this end I also taped it up, so this is also clean and can go back in. Now the only thing we have left is this gray wire, and I will connect this to the instrument cluster. And the reason for doing so is because I can then connect it to the e-brake, so the handbrake, whatever you want to call it. So as long as the e-brake is pulled, then the lights stay out even if the ignition is on. So that's our last step in the process. I have disconnected the instrument cluster and isolated the gray wire that I need. So I will splice into that and then connect that with the other gray wire. I spliced into the wire and have the string tube ready. This is the last connection I had to make. The gray wire coming down from the instrument cluster is now connected to the gray wire of the module. Crimp connected, shrink tube ready, and then it's time to wrap it up to make sure that everything finds a good place and is tie wrapped in place, etc. And that is my location for the module. So everything's buttoned up, ready to test. The installation is done. I can now show you how this works. So when you turn on the ignition, in this case no lights go on because our e-brake is still up. So when I release that, then you can see that the lights have gone on. So if I pull the e-brake, the lights go out. And from the outside, what can you expect? Well, basically normal illumination on the front as well as on the back. So you can never forget to turn on your lights, which is convenient. Some people may say it's unnecessary, some others say it's smart. With cars of this size, it's always better to be visible. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Post your questions and remarks in the comment section below. All your feedback is welcome. Thanks for watching MX-5 Info, and until next time.